In the heart of the city, beyond skyscrapers, behind the flicker of neon streets, and underneath the silence of power, lived a man almost no one had ever seen, yet everyone feared and respected. His name was Xavier King, but the world whispered another name for him, the Shadow King. He never appeared on camera, never attended public events, never stood in the spotlight, yet his influence was spread everywhere, woven silently into the city's deepest structures. Politicians changed policies after a single phone call. Corporations shifted their strategies with a message that came from an unknown sender. And every major decision in the city, legal or illegal, somehow connected back to him. Xavier wasn't just rich. He was billionaire powerful. He owned luxury hotel chains, cutting-edge tech companies, private security agencies, international trading firms. On paper, everything looked perfectly legal. There were no criminal records, no digital footprints, no suspicious trails. But beneath this clean surface, another world existed, a world only he controlled, the real business of the Shadow King. Xavier's true empire wasn't built on crime in the traditional sense. It was built on silence, protection, influence. He ran an underground detection network, a system so complex, so hidden, that only the top 1% of the elite even knew it existed. He offered silent security to powerful politicians, wealthy businessmen, foreign investors, and international groups who needed untraceable protection. No one knew where the deals happened. No one knew who delivered the message. And no one knew how payments were transferred. All they knew was that if Xavier King took your side, your enemies disappeared from your path. Sometimes peacefully, sometimes permanently. His network was invisible, yet untouchable. And Xavier controlled it with mechanical precision. A life of unimaginable wealth. Money poured into Xavier's world like water into an ocean. His lifestyle, though hidden, was beyond anything the city had ever seen. He owned a private island with its own airstrip and security base, a fortress-like mansion inside a gated zone, protected by every modern system imaginable, a secret underground showroom filled with rare supercars, Bugattis, Koenigsegg's, limited edition Ferraris, most of which existed in numbers less than 10. 200 elite guards trained in surveillance, combat, and silent movement. And in the digital world, Xavier was almost non-existent. His identity had been carefully erased from every vulnerable corner. Databases, websites, records, and archives. He lived like a myth, an untouchable phantom. But his rule had one clear principle. I don't use violence. I control the system. He didn't shoot, didn't threaten, didn't show off. Instead, he manipulated situations like chess pieces, quietly, elegantly, flawlessly. He was calm but dangerous, cold on the surface, but fiercely loyal to the few he allowed near him. In a world where trust was the rarest currency, Xavier valued it the most. People feared him not because he was brutal, but because he was smart. Smart enough to win without lifting a weapon. Smart enough to destroy without making noise. Smart enough to protect whoever he chose, completely. The one thing he never had. Xavier's empire was perfect, his wealth unmatched, his network unbreakable. But in this massive, silent kingdom he ruled, he stood alone. He had hundreds of employees, dozens of allies, but not a single person he trusted fully. Every guard had a role. Every partner had an agenda. Every connection had conditions. Xavier had power, money, control, everything except someone genuine. Someone who wasn't trying to steal from him, use him, or betray him. Someone who didn't fear him, but respected him. Someone who could stand beside him, not below him. What Xavier needed wasn't another soldier. He needed a person of loyalty, a bond stronger than power. Someone who belonged to him by choice, not by fear. He didn't know it yet, but that missing piece, that rare kind of loyalty, was about to enter his life from the most unexpected place. A poor boy from a small garage. A boy with nothing. No money, no status, no family backing, but a heart that could be trusted and a talent powerful enough to catch the eye of the Shadow King himself. In the noisy industrial zone of the city, Where factories trembled, machines roared, and smoke painted the air, there stood a small, forgotten garage. It was the kind of place people visited only when they had no other option. Rusted tools, oil-stained floors, broken lights. And amid all this chaos worked a 19-year-old boy named Ryan. He had grown up in poverty, so deep it had carved itself into his bones. He knew hunger like a friend, struggle like a routine, and disappointment like a shadow. But despite everything, he carried a gift, one so rare that even he didn't realize its true worth. Ryan could hear an engine and instantly understand its entire story. A single sound, a slight vibration, a tiny shake. He knew exactly what was wrong. Mechanics twice his age took hours diagnosing problems he understood in seconds. His hands were skilled. His instincts were sharper than computers. And his heart was still honest despite the harsh world around him. He didn't know it yet, but his talent was about to take him out of the garage and into the world of the most powerful man in the city. The day everything changed. It was a late afternoon. The sky was turning orange, and the garage was unusually silent. The mechanics were tired, customers irritated, and Ryan was wiping grease from his hands when he heard the deep growl of a powerful engine outside. A massive armored SUV rolled in, completely black, windows tinted, frame thick enough to survive a war. The vehicle alone was intimidating, but what shocked mechanics even more was the man stepping out, Xavion King, the Shadow King himself. But he came quietly, without guards, without attention, without fear. The mechanics instantly froze. They had never seen him this close. Some took a step back. Some pretended to work. Only Ryan stood still, not out of bravery, but because he didn't fully understand who had just walked in. Xavion looked around the garage slowly, then placed a light hand on the hood of the SUV, as if listening to its heartbeat. "There's a vibration," he said calmly. "Find it." The senior mechanics opened the hood, checked wires, inspected belts, but nothing made sense. Whatever the issue was, it was too precise, too subtle. Ryan stepped forward, hesitated for a second, then simply listened. Just 1 second, just one breath. Then he said, in a soft but confident tone, "Sir, the fuel injector timing is off, and the air mix is running exactly 3% too lean." Silence filled the garage. The mechanics stared at him. Xavion slowly turned his head, raising an eyebrow with interest. He walked a step closer to Ryan, studying him carefully. "Tell me," Xavion said, "are you a mechanic or a magician?" Ryan felt awkward and glanced at the ground, giving a small, lifeless smile. "Sir, I just work here." But Xavion was not looking at his clothes or his poverty. He was looking at his eyes, clear, steady, fearless. He noticed the way Ryan stood, the way he spoke without shaking, the way he didn't try to impress or hide. There was an honesty there, and a spark Xavion had been searching for. The invitation. "Come here tomorrow," Xavion said suddenly. Ryan blinked. "Why, sir?" Xavion crossed his arms. "Because," he said calmly, "starting tomorrow, you are my driver." The garage went dead silent. A wrench fell from someone's hand. A mechanic gasped. The owner froze like a statue. Ryan himself stepped back in shock. "And me?" "Sir, I'm just a car repair boy." "I don't." Xavion cut him off with a small motion of his hand. "You don't have talent," he said softly. "You have a future." Ryan felt something inside him shift. No one had ever said anything like that to him. No one had seen value in him, except for the work he did. But this man, this shadow-like king, saw potential. As Xavion walked out of the garage, he said only one sentence. "Don't be late." A life-changing night. That night, Ryan didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling of his tiny room. Cracked paint, broken fan, dim light. Wondering if this was all a dream. Leaving the garage meant leaving the only life he ever knew. But saying no to Xavion King? Impossible. Somewhere deep inside, Ryan felt it. This was not just a job. This was destiny pulling him out of darkness. And so, with a trembling heart and a silent prayer, he made the biggest decision of his life, to step out of poverty and walk into the world of the Shadow King. Stepping into Xavion King's world felt like stepping into another universe. A universe built on silence, discipline, elegance, and danger hiding behind luxury. For Ryan, everything was new. The mansion had hallways so quiet you could hear your own heartbeat. Guards moved like ghosts. Doors opened only with scans and codes. Everywhere he turned, he saw expensive paintings, rare artifacts, and technology he'd never imagined. But nothing fascinated him more than the cars. Each morning, Ryan found a different luxury machine waiting for him. A G-Wagon, a Bentley Flying Spur, an Aston Martin DBS, sometimes even a Rolls-Royce Ghost. Most people would freeze just sitting in them. Ryan had to master them, because Xavion's rule was absolute. You don't drive for speed. You drive for survival. Ryan didn't understand why a billionaire, someone who owned islands, companies, and influence, needed a driver trained in survival driving. But every time he asked, the only answer he received was a small, calm smile. You'll understand soon. And slowly he did. The reality behind the luxury. Xavion's empire looked legal from the outside. Clean paperwork, registered businesses, transparent partnerships. But real power always attracted threats. Deals worth millions happened in silence. Competitors were ruthless, hidden in shadows, willing to cross any line. Some wanted to sabotage him. Some wanted to replace him. Some simply wanted him dead. Xavion didn't fear them. He simply prepared for them. This was why survival mattered. Why speed mattered. Why Ryan mattered. He wasn't just driving rich men to meetings. He was escorting the Shadow King through a world full of invisible knives. The night of the Cadillac. One night, after a long series of meetings, Xavion called out to him, "Ryan, warm up the bulletproof Cadillac." The order sounded normal, but the tone felt heavier than usual. The Cadillac was a beast, armored, reinforced, built to take hits without flinching. It wasn't a car for comfort. It was a car for war. As Ryan walked toward it, one of Xavion's senior guards pulled him aside, a man who never spoke unless necessary. His voice was low. "Listen carefully, kid. The boss didn't hire you just to drive him around." Ryan looked confused. The guard continued, "You're his shield, the closest circle, the people he trusts to keep him alive." Ryan swallowed hard. The words hit him deeper than the guard realized. He remembered all the nights he had gone to sleep hungry, all the days he worked under the burning sun fixing broken engines, all the moments he thought his life would never change. And now, he was part of the inner circle, the most feared, most respected man in the city. It didn't feel real. Guidance from the Shadow King. Throughout the drive that night, Xavion watched him through the rear mirror. Ryan drove silently, focused, alert. The roads were empty, the city lights glowing faintly, the tension thick. Halfway through the journey, Xavion finally spoke. "Ryan." "Yes, sir?" The Shadow King's voice was calm, almost gentle. "You learn fast," he said. "Not many people can handle vehicles like you." Ryan felt his chest warm with pride. But Xavion wasn't finished. "Skill is good," he said softly. "Loyalty is better." Ryan didn't understand what he meant. So Xavion explained. "Some people act loyal because they want money. Some act loyal because they fear power. But your loyalty is natural, pure." Ryan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Xavion continued. "Loyalty that comes from a poor man's heart." He paused for a moment, then added, "is more powerful than any $1 million contract." The words pierced right through Ryan. He remembered his past. The hunger, the struggle, the loneliness, and for the first time he felt that his pain had meaning, that everything he suffered had shaped him into the person Xavion trusted. No one had ever spoken about his worth like this. No one had looked at him the way Xavion did, like he was more than just a poor boy from a forgotten garage. He wasn't an employee anymore. He wasn't just a driver. He was becoming something else, something important in the Shadow King's world. That night, after a high-profile meeting wrapped up, Xavion and Ryan were driving down the quiet highway in their armored Cadillac. The city lights were fading behind them, and only the sound of the engine filled the silence. Ryan was focused, eyes sharp, posture straight, every sense awake. But suddenly, something fell off. He glanced at the rear-view mirror, and his instincts kicked in instantly. Two black sports cars had appeared behind them. No headlights, no indicator signals, moving in perfect coordination. He spoke calmly, without panic. "Sir, we might have a problem. Two suspicious cars are tailing us." Xavion didn't show surprise. He simply nodded once, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. "Ryan," he said, voice steady, "tonight becomes your real training test." Before Ryan could respond, the two cars behind him accelerated, and then gunfire. Bullets sliced through the air, hitting the back of the guard vehicle behind them. Sparks flew, glass shattered, and the protection car swerved wildly. Ryan tightened his grip on the steering wheel. His heartbeat jumped, but his mind stayed clear. "Hold on," he muttered. Then he launched into motion, fast, precise, controlled. He executed a sharp left cut, throwing the Cadillac into the outer lane and breaking the attacker's aim. He followed with a sudden brake, causing the front attacker's car to overshoot and lose positioning. Then Ryan shifted gears and took an off-road dive, kicking up dust and gravel, using the uneven ground to disrupt the shooter's accuracy. Xavion watched him, calm, analyzing, impressed. But the chase wasn't over. The attackers corrected quickly and came down after them, firing nonstop. Ryan didn't blink. He swung the Cadillac into a high-speed drift, creating a wave of debris behind him that forced the shooters to slow down. The second attacker pushed harder, trying to flank them from the right side. Ryan anticipated it. He cut the wheel, timed the terrain, and used a blind curve maneuver, turning sharply around a narrow bend that the attackers weren't prepared for. One of the black cars hit the curve too fast. It spun out, crashing straight into a steel barrier. The second attacker tried to recover, but Ryan was already using the environment to his advantage. Ahead was a thin, narrow bridge with metal railings. There was barely room for one vehicle at a time. Perfect. Ryan increased speed, hitting the bridge first. The second attacker tried to follow but miscalculated the angle. The sports car slammed into the railings and skidded sideways, completely blocked from crossing. The chase ended right there. Ryan steadied the Cadillac, exhaled, and slowed down once they were safely ahead. A moment of silence filled the car. Then, unexpectedly, Xavion clapped, slowly, appreciatively. A rare smile touched the Shadow King's face. "You saved my life," he said, voice warm for first time. "And your own." Ryan looked forward, chest rising and falling, adrenaline fading, but pride growing. He had never imagined he'd be in a situation like this. He had never imagined he'd handle it. But he did. Xavion placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Ryan, you are not just my driver anymore." His voice carried weight. Something deeper, something final. "You're my man now." The word struck Ryan harder than the danger they had escaped. For someone who had grown up invisible, for someone who had struggled for food, for someone who had spent his life fixing broken engines in a forgotten garage, this sentence changed everything. It wasn't just praise. It wasn't just acknowledgement. It was acceptance from the most powerful shadow in the entire city. From that night onward, Ryan wasn't just driving cars. He was driving into a new life, one filled with power, loyalty, danger, and the protection of the only man who had ever seen potential in him. And for the first time, he felt something he had never felt before. He belonged somewhere. 2 days after the highway attack, Xavion summoned Ryan to his private estate. The place looked unreal. Towering gates, silent guards, and a long path lined with perfectly shaped trees. Ryan had been inside only once before, but this time something felt different, heavier, important. When he walked into the front lawn, he froze. Parked in the center was a matte black Dodge Charger Hellcat. Wide body kit, deep growl engine, custom rims, bulletproof glass. The kind of car that looked like it belonged to a legend. Ryan stepped closer. The paint absorbed the sunlight. The design was aggressive, sharp, and undeniably powerful. It wasn't a normal Hellcat. This one was fully armored and tuned exactly to the style Ryan loved. Clean, fast, brutal, and mechanical perfection. He turned to Xavion, confused. "Sir, who is this for?" Xavion didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward Ryan with that rare, subtle smile He only showed when he truly meant something. Then he placed the keys gently into Ryan's palm. "For you," he said. "My protege." The word hit Ryan like a shock. Protege, not driver, not employee, not some boy from a broken garage. Protege. Before he could react, Xavion gestured for him to follow. They walked into a nearby building on the estate, sleek, tall, and modern. The elevator opened directly into a stunning luxury apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows, a private balcony overlooking the city, new furniture, security systems that cost more than Ryan had ever seen in his whole life. Xavion stood with his hands behind his back. "This," he said calmly, "is your new home." Ryan blinked. "Sir, this is too much. I'm just—" Xavion raised a hand, stopping him. "You're not just anything," he said. "You protected my life. You stood loyal when others would have run. You earned this." Ryan didn't know what to say. His chest tightened. His throat felt heavy. He had grown up in a broken neighborhood where the walls leaked, the power went out every week, and he slept on a thin mattress placed directly on the floor. He had gone to bed hungry so many nights he stopped counting them. And now he was standing in a place that looked like a dream. Xavion walked around the apartment slowly, speaking in his quiet, commanding tone. "You will have full security. Nobody can reach you here. You will have access to everything you need. A stable life, a safe future." He paused and turned to him. "You're part of my circle now. And once I protect someone, I protect them fully." Ryan felt heat behind his eyes. He had promised himself he would never cry in front of anyone again, but this moment almost broke that rule. "Sir," he whispered, "I don't know how to thank you." Xavion stepped closer, placing a firm hand on Ryan's shoulder. "You don't need to thank me," he said. "You only need to do one thing." Ryan looked up. "What's that?" "Stay loyal. That's all." Xavion's voice softened. "The rest is my responsibility." The room fell silent for a moment. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a condition. It was trust, something Xavion almost never gave. Ryan nodded, feeling something strong rise in his chest. Pride, gratitude, purpose. Inside his heart, he spoke words he wished someone had told him years ago. Never underestimate the talent of a poor boy, because he was living proof. He had walked into Xavion's world as a nobody, a mechanic kid with dirty hands, a tired soul, and no future. But now, he was driving an armored Hellcat. He was living in a luxury apartment. He was protected by the most powerful shadow in the entire city. And most importantly, he had become the trusted protege of the Shadow King. The journey from a forgotten garage to a life of power and loyalty was complete. But deep down, Ryan knew this wasn't just an ending. This was the beginning of a whole new chapter.